Hello and welcome back to the channel. It's Sean here from Billy Goat Wargaming, and as promised, this is now going to be the pre-game sequence for this game of AK47 Reloaded. Hopefully I've got everything to hand so that you can get through this fairly unscathed. So on the record sheet, this is on the inside cover of the rules, but it's also free to download from the Peter Pig website. We have the battle record sheet. So this isn't the quick play sheet, which has got all the various tables for the rules on it. This is a sheet that you will use throughout the game to refer to your army quality, to how many of the assets that you've used, and the game countdown can be ticked off along here. You determine how many attack points you've got, you record the days to war, and also attributes that your units will get throughout this pre-game sequence. And I've filled both sheets out for the People's Popular Front here and for the dictatorship here. So we've got the army listed. So I'll look at the dictator's army first. So the first unit is a militia unit with 3 HMG technicals and 2 armoured cars with guns. Unit 2 is another militia unit with 8 small arm bases and 4 RPGs. Unit 3 is a regular unit with 3 tanks. Unit 4, 5 small arms and 4 RPGs, regular again, and another regular unit of 4 small arms and RPGs. Now that will change throughout the game, throughout the pre-game sequence. That'll get reduced through the reserve mechanism and also through the army list tables, which we'll come to shortly. I've chosen the scenery. As the same for both sides, with 3 woods, 2 hills and a building, and that'll get laid out shortly. And then the 15 days to war. Now you play this a small dice game for each of these days within the 3 weeks, and dependent on how well you do against your opponent, then you roll on the event table within each army list. So for here, the dictatorship have put 5 dice into Monday, 4 into Tuesday, 2 to Wednesday, 3 to Thursday and 2 to Friday. Now I've actually randomized this. I've just rolled a d6. So it has to be between 1 and 7 dice in each day. And it's got to add up to 16 across the week. There we go. And you can see each row must add up to a total of 16. Now you can... so I'll show you as an example, the PPF. I've just put 1 dice into Monday. So there will be a dice off between, and this is done in secret, and there'll be a dice off between the dictatorship with 5 dice and the PPF with 1 dice, looking for 4 5s or 6s. It doesn't matter how many successes over and above your opponent you get. If you get 2 successes, say for the dictatorship, and the PPF get none, then they've won that day. But let's say in this instance that the PPF win the day by getting a 6, and let's say that the dictatorship get 5 1s, they will have won that Monday. Both sides will then tick off that day. Now the PPF would have a choice of rolling straight onto their events table, which would be a 2d6 here. Now you can see numbers above 12 here, up to 17 in fact. So if the PPF decided not to take the dice roll on the on the event table now, you can roll it over and add 3d6 to the roll on the table. Sorry, I got that slightly wrong. I just checked back there. So sorry. So imagine the PPF won the day and decided to roll on the events table. They would roll 2d6 and get one of these results. Obviously, they can't score above 12, and they'd implement one of those. And it could be a bad result if you roll low, so you have to remove 2 bases from the army and place them in the reserve box. If you roll high, you might get awarded 2 aggressive shots to a single unit, or reduce an opponent's asset by 3. Now, on the following day, because you won, you would get to add 1d6. You've got some sort of momentum there. So on Tuesday, we can see that the PPF have gone with 5 dice to 4 for the dictatorship. The PPF would roll 6 dice because they'd won the previous day. Now, they don't have to roll on the event table. What they can do is roll over that success to the next day. You get to roll 3d6 for winning the previous day extra, which will give you, in this case, 8d6 versus 4d6. And again, you're just looking to beat the opponent. It doesn't matter how much you're beating by. So it could be 8 successes to 0 successes. It wouldn't make any difference. But then on the event table, you get to add +5, which is how you can get up to 15, 16, 17. So say I roll 10, I get to 15, and I come to this result, which is Mufadi is our general, hooray. Increase any asset by 3 and award 4 bonus movement markers to the army. And also you get 17 attack points there, as opposed to if I hadn't rolled the day of and didn't get that bonus and I just rolled the 10, I'd only get 7. So there's quite a difference there. But anyway, that's just explaining very quickly the 15 days tool. So looking through the events sheet on here, we can see that we have arrived at the agreed venue. We've declared our army type, so we've got a dictatorship and a People's Popular Front. Lay out the army to see, and we can see both armies there as described. Both players roll for reserves, so we find the reserve page. Now understand that I'm doing this solo, and it's a while since I've done it, so you will just have to bear with me, but rest assured that 2 seasoned players can get through this in no time. I would say from top to bottom, all 20 parts of the pre-game sequence can be got through in 10 to 15 minutes with no trouble. This will take longer because I'm doing it on my own and I'm obviously explaining it. But we'll do the PPF first, I think. So now we have to roll 1d6 per unit. So there's 5 units and there's a result that will be applied here. And what this will do is put units into a reserve box, which is just a handy lid that will I'll just put off to the side of the camera there. Now you must take note that no unit can be reduced to less than 5 foot bases or 2 vehicles. So in the PPF, sorry, this is the dictatorship, there's 5 vehicles in this unit. We've got 12 foot bases militia there, 3 tanks, 10 foot bases, 10 foot bases. So no unit can be reduced to less than 5 foot bases or 2 vehicles, regardless of the result here. Also that when foot bases or bases are taken away from the units in your army, they can join any unit of their own quality or worse when they do arrive on the table, and there's mechanisms in the reinforcements as to how you get bases out of your foot units back onto the table. So without further ado, we'll go through this then. So get my handy dice tray. Gosh, there's not enough room on the table. So for Unit 1, which is 5 vehicles, it's 3 HMGs and 2 armoured cars. We roll on this table and we get a 2. Remove 1 vehicle or 3 foot bases, and it's the opponent's choice. So this would be the PPF making that decision. And because there's 3 HMG technicals and 2 armoured cars, then I think it would make most sense to remove one of the vehicles with the armoured cars with a tank gun on it. So I'm not sure what this vehicle is. It came in the bundle that I bought, but I'm using it as an armoured car. I'd say I don't have enough armoured cars with tank guns, so that will do. So that goes into the reinforcement box thus. So we move to Unit 2, which is militia with 12 foot bases. Now the higher the roll, the better. Remove one vehicle or 3 foot bases, owner's choice. And this is from a militia unit. So we'll remove, I think, 2 RPGs and a small arms base. And we put them into a corner of the reserve box there. Unit 3 is 3 tanks. Now remember that this can't go below 2. So if I rolled a 1 where it says 2 vehicles, opponent's choice, then they'd only just remove the 1 vehicle. And that's a 5. Remove 1 vehicle or 3 foot bases, owner's choice. So we'll remove one of the tanks there to the reserve box. Unit 4 and 5 now are both foot units with 9 bases each. And that first roll is 3 foot bases. So I think again we'll take off a couple of RPGs and a small arms base. And then a 4 again, which is 3 foot bases, and we will do the same there. We'll remove, I think we'll remove the HMG and 2 foot bases. So that is the reserve box for the dictatorship. So these all can come back onto the table throughout the game. What it does is just deplete the army, so it can't use everything immediately that you've got on. It brings in some uncertainty to the game. And as the design comment in the rules says, we wanted some of each army to be off table so that players have resources to call upon. The fact that the reserves can arrive in an unexpected place allows some simulation of the unknown nature of enemy units. A bit of suspense is good in the game. I think we'd all agree to that. So on to the People's Popular Front, same mechanism. So Unit 1 is 6 small arms and 4 RPGs, and I've rolled a 1 there, which means it's 4 foot bases of the opponent's choice. Well, obviously there's no opponent, it's just me, so we will bring them forward and we'll remove, I think, 2 RPGs and 2 rifle bases. And just put them into the corner here. Then we have another militia unit. This time I've rolled a 5, which means 1 vehicle or 3 foot bases. So a theme you'll see here is removing the RPGs and 1 small arm base. Unit 3 is a regular unit, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, of 7 bases, and that's 3 foot bases from the regulars. Unit 4 is 2 recoilless rifle technicals and 4 HMG technicals, and that's 1 vehicle or 3 foot bases. I think we'll take off the recoilless rifle truck. And then Unit 5 is 4 armoured cars with guns, and it's 1 vehicle, so they're all the same. Now I've only got a limited number of armoured cars with guns. I've used these lists off the Peterborough website, but I've only got I think I've got 3 armoured cars with guns. So these, you have to forgive me, I'm using these turrets here with machine guns as armoured cars with guns, tank guns. So that's all reinforcements done. Sorry, reserves done. So once that's done, we go back down the sheet and we've got declare 7 scenery items. Well, as I've said, we've got 3 woods, a building and 2 hills. 3 woods, a building and 2 hills per player, so that keeps it relatively straightforward. and then we then carry out 15 days to war. So this is the bit where we look at the days to war. And I'll just move this out of the way and try and get this so you can see as much as possible. So 3, 4, 5. Got 5 dice there for the Monday and 1 dice for the dictators and 1 dice for the PPF. So looking for 4, 5s and 6s. So that's 3 successes to none. So just cross that day off. Pen's running out, bear with me. So now the PPF have the option of taking that or rolling it over. And I think they'll roll it over just to show you that mechanism. So on the Tuesday, so there's no effect for that first day. For the Tuesday then, they have 4 dice, but we rolled over because we won yesterday and we didn't use the events table. Let me move these out of the way. PPF, they've got 27 attack points to 17 for the dictatorship with a difference of 10. Now we look on this chart on page 48 for the difference in attack points. So it's the attack point advantage towards the PPF. So from an aggressive border incident where the attack point difference is 1 to 5, we have a difference of 10, which is between 6 and 13. So it's a level 2 battle, a hot incursion. If the dictatorship hadn't won those last 2 days, it would have ended up as a determined attack. So this depends on how many units the defender will get onto the table at the start of the game. Obviously, to be an attacker, you want to be attacking a smaller force. The attacker, so in this case the PPF, will have 1 unit off table and 4 units on the table at game start. So they'll have 1 unit as reinforcements, and that'll be decided upon shortly. But for now, we look at the dictatorship army. It certainly seems to have got the worst of it in this war so far. They're defending again. The PPF have obviously pushed on through the town of Solace and are attacking and pressing home the advantage. So we know that the dictator is defending, and from this table we know which units are going to be on the table and which potentially off table. So they are categorized here, units A, B, C, D and E, and obviously the units are labeled 1 to 5. So that gives the defending player some choice as to how he wants to categorize the units. So we'll take a look at this now. And we know that units have already been depleted, but in defense we possibly want more infantry on the table, I think. So what we'll do is put units 4 and 5 as A. No, we'll put unit 4 as unit A and unit 2 as unit B. That means they're definitely on table at the game start. Now we look at here because this determines whether units are reinforcements or there are additional bases put into the reserve box. So unit C, what shall we say as unit C? Let's say we'll put the tanks as unit C. We'll put unit 5 as unit D and the militia as unit E. So unit C then, the tanks. Unit C is off table as reinforcement with no further losses, or you roll a d6 for additional losses which go into the reserve box and appears on the table. So if we look at 1, 2, 3, we get 1 vehicle down, and unit 4, 5, sorry, roll a 4, 5 or 6 and 2 vehicles go off table. I think we're going to put those tanks into reinforcements so that they can come on as a whole, hopefully at some point during the game. Units D and E are off table as reinforcements with no further losses. So all 3 then of the off table units will be reinforcements. We've got the reserve box sorted, and we know that units A and B, so we have the regular unit of foot and a militia unit of foot are going to be on the table. Unit A has the 2 aggressive shots, so it will have some bonus at game start. Now the attacker doesn't have it all his own way, because he has to roll a d6 to see which unit is off table. Now if I roll a 6, then I can choose, but otherwise it's 1 to 5, and that is the unit that is in reinforcements, and that's a 3. So it's a regular unit of small arms, 7 small arm bases, and they've got 2 aggressive shots, so that unit 3 will be the off table unit. Okay, we move on to scenery, and don't worry, the layout of these dice don't stay on the table. It's just to denote that in this version of the game the table is split into 6 zones, rather like the 6 spots on a d6, if you like. So the yellow dice outline the area of the zone, and the purple dice just indicate the 6 zones. Now you can see I've laid out the road here. The attacker lays out what's called the transverse road, so the road going across, and the defender will lay out the here to there road, or from here to there. Now there might be some tactics in where you place this, and that might become obvious during the course of the game. But I've just laid those out for the purposes of demonstration. So each of these zones has to have 2 pieces of scenery within it. Now in the normal game, which would be on a 6x4 table, which would be out here somewhere, that would leave 2 pieces of scenery left over. Because I've reduced it to 6 pieces per side, that means all the scenery will be, that each zone will have 2 pieces of scenery in it. Now the defender lays out the scenery, and then the attacker has a chance to move some of that around to his advantage. So I'll lay out the scenery as the defender, and then we'll come back to you. Okay, so the defender's laid out the scenery, as you can see. It's now the defender's obligation now to lay out 4 objectives, which can be a road entrance, crossroads, buildings or hills, and must be 12 inches apart. So I'm going to lay out some tokens to indicate that here. So we'll go for this road entrance here as one objective. We'll go for this building here as one objective. We'll go for the crossroads as one objective, and a hill as another objective. Okay, so we will go for this hill. I'll just move it along so it's a little bit more than 12 inches away. So we've got 4 objectives. We've got the crossroads, the road entrance, the central village, and this point here. Now the defender can't be within 6 inches of a table edge, so I'll tell you what we'll do. I'll just swap that over. I'll put that there. Okay, sorry, just move that around. So the hill there is, the smaller hill there is an objective as well. So we've got those 4 objectives. Okay, so the attacker will now nominate one of these objectives to disappear. I think just for clarity we'll go for this one here with the hill, leaving the 3 objectives as such. That probably isn't the most tactically sound decision, but this is a solo game. I'm only trying to beat myself. So having decided on objectives, it's now the attacker now has some say in where some of the scenery is, to try and create an angle of attack, or a best route of attack. So he rolls a d6 and adds 2, and that's a 1, so it only gets 3 chances to move a piece of scenery. You can't move the road and you can't move objectives. So there's 3 chances, and it's a 4, 5 or 6 to try and move a piece of scenery. So assuming the attacker is coming on from this base edge here, I wonder what might be the best piece of scenery to move. Now, the 2 pieces per zone, that doesn't count now, so yeah, so the attacker has some freedom now as to where he wants to put these pieces of scenery. So let's look what we can do. And there has to be a gap of there has to be enough space for a vehicle to move in between pieces of scenery. So we'll perhaps look at moving this hill first, I think. And that we can move that. So I think what we'll do is just put that towards the baseline there, out of the way. We're going to try and move this piece of scenery, and we do, and we're going to bring that over here, because it might provide a bit. In fact, we'll move that here, because it'll provide some cover. Sorry, that was a bit shaky. So a wood template from there to here to provide some cover, perhaps for the attack into here. And we've got one more chance to move a piece of scenery, and it shall be successful, and we will we'll perhaps move this hill, I think, out of the way, so there's a clear area there that if we can occupy these wood pieces, then there's a good field of fire here. Okay, all scenery laid out and trees applied. These are the homemade trees that I knocked up last week to be sort of low acacia types. I'm not sure I've pulled that off, but they look alright for me. And as a standard practice, at least 4 trees per template. No fewer than 4, please. And the odd bit of lichen or reindeer moss, I think it might be called, just thrown around to make it look a bit more savannah-like. And so to deployment, the defender gets 2 units on table. Now, I put those 2 dice down. That just indicates the 3 areas of frontage. Each is 20 inches long on this table. It would be 2 foot long on the standard table. And they're at an 18-inch pointer in from the baseline, so the defender can place his units anywhere within that zone. I'll come back to you once I've done that. Okay, so deployment's done. The dictatorship have occupied this village here with their unit of militia. So there's 7 bases and 2 RPGs, I think, in there, yes, for 9 bases. And you can see the grouping that I was talking about in the earlier video. The bases are grouped into 3s as fire teams. This unit here is just slightly out of the template, but it'll be counted as in the template because the buildings are actually fixed onto that base, and I couldn't squeeze them in, so we'll allow that. And then here we have a unit of regulars in the jungle or the brush. Just 6 bases now after that. After some bases ran off into the reserves, so that's where they are. Okay, so that's deployment done. The attacker gets to set up 6 inches in on the table. That's marked by these dice. And we can see the 3 armoured cars with tank guns here deployed on the road. Got a unit of militia behind the jungle, hoping to use that as some cover. This is actually the general base and the general's bodyguard, not attached to a unit at the moment. Talk about them shortly. Another militia unit here looking to get into the village, and then this unit of odd assortment of vehicles with a recoilless rifle on the back of that truck, and then we've got 4 machine guns on the back of wheeled vehicles. So a couple of Toyotas and a couple of old trucks there as well. So there we go. The video's been half an hour long, but I've done a lot of talking and a lot of explaining, and I can assure you that that would be about 15 minutes in real time with two people who knew what they were doing, to the point where you're ready to roll the first dice, and that's the point we're at now. I'll stop the video there and we'll come back next time and fight the game out.